So another UFC pay-per-view this weekend from Dallas, Texas, the American Airlines Arena. In the main event, it is the rematch of, I would say, the greatest upset in women's MMA history, but then you look at it, okay, Rousey home, but still, I was more surprised about Pena Nunes. Anyways, you got the rematch in the main event. In the co-main event, you got a rematch for the interim flyweight championship between Brandon Moreno, Kai Kara-France. Also, can't forget the Black Beast on this card as well, Derek Lewis taking on Sergey Pavlovich. You got Alexandre Pantoja taking on Alex Perez in the main card, and then kicking off the main card as well, you have got Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith, both potentially fighting for an upcoming title shot. So we're going to get into this 13-fight card, and folks, if you haven't yet, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. And quickly looking at UFC London, we went 10-4, pretty solid. I mean, one of the four was Tom Aspinall losing in the main event, and we had Chris Curtis against Jack Hermansson. Given was Hermansson running the entire fight? I wouldn't say he was running. I think he was doing a good job avoiding Chris Curtis' shots, and unfortunately for Curtis, he lost. Didn't really display himself in the best manner after the fight, but on Twitter and all that, he's responded, I think, all right. But yeah, I went 10-4. I was pretty happy with Krylov beating Gustafsson. I kind of called that. I called DeCasey going there and just boring wrestling Damir Hozovic the entire fight. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to do that. I just thought he was going to go in there wrestling the entire fight. That's what he did. Unfortunately, Jordan Levitt lost. I picked Paddy the Baddy anyways. I picked Molly McCann to win. Also, we got Volkan to beat Paul Craig. A lot of people thought Paul Craig was going to win that fight. I took Volkan. He got the win. So that is it for UFC London. Let's move now to UFC 277. So our first fight is Blood Diamond taking on Orion Cosce. Now, for Blood Diamond's first fight in the UFC, he lost to Jeremiah Wells. It was so one-sided. I mean, Wells goes in there, takes him down immediately. I mean, Blood Diamond doesn't do anything on the ground. Eventually, Jeremiah Wells goes in there and sinks in a submission. It was just a matter of time before Jeremiah Wells was able to put away Blood Diamond. And if you haven't heard of Blood Diamond, really good kickboxer. I mean, he's got a long kickboxing background. He comes into MMA, he fights 3 fights, then gets a shot in the UFC because he is a CKB guy. He trains with Adesanya, and of course, in the co-main event, you got Kai Kara-France coming out of City Kickboxing as well over there in New Zealand. But Blood Diamond's 34 years old, from Zimbabwe, now fighting out of New Zealand. Again, lost for first UFC fight to Jeremiah Wells. And honestly, for Blood Diamond, he has really shown a lack of wrestling so far. I would say, obviously, just in his career, he's shown a lack of wrestling, a lack of grappling, because he is a primary kickboxer. He's a primary kickboxer. He wants to go, he wants to stand. But once you get to the UFC and once you get to this level, it's tough fighting these guys if you haven't had a long experience wrestling and grappling throughout your entire career. His first UFC fight against Jeremiah Wells, who he can wrestle and he can grapple, but not a guy who, I mean, look at his next fight after he beat Blood Diamond. He went in there, he knocked out Court McGee. Wells, and he knocked out Alves in his first fight as well. He's not a primary grappler, but he went in there and took down Diamond, and he showed, this is where I want to win the fight, because obviously you're not going to go in there and stand with Blood Diamond, because that's just basically, the kiss of death if you're going to go in there and strike with Blood Diamond, like what Sean Strickland tried to do against another kickboxer and Alex Bahia. But when you look at Blood Diamond's opponent in this one, it's Orion Cosce. So Cosce's first fight in the UFC, loses. Okay, he loses to Philip Rowe. Rowe knocks him out in the second round. But what does Phil Rowe not do in that fight? Orion Cosce takes him down, and Phil Rowe's not able to get back up. Cosce's pretty dominant with the wrestling. He keeps Phil Rowe down for a long extended period of that fight. And of course, Rowe comes back to win that fight and knocks him out in the second round. That was all the way back a year ago. It's going to be 364 days before Orion Cosce fights Blood Diamond. But again, Cosce's able to go in there and wrestle him. If Cosce's able to take down Phil Rowe, who's to say he's not going to take down Blood Diamond? And as long as he doesn't get caught with a big shot early in the fight, and Blood Diamond doesn't hit him with some crazy bomb early, Cosce's going to be able to take him down, and Cosce's going to be able to submit him. If Jeremiah Wells is able to do it, I think Orion Cosce's able to do the same exact thing. I like Blood Diamond. Again, I took him as a wild card. I threw a dart in his fight against Wells to knock him out in the first round. I just don't feel great about that about this fight against Cosce, watching his first fight in the UFC. I've got Orion Cosce to take down Blood Diamond, and I got him to submit him in the first. So our second fight of the night is going to be Negumereanu taking on Ihor Potieria. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't watched much on Ihor. I watched this fight in the Contender Series, and I just watched a fight from WWFC 18. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with this promotion. It's a Ukrainian promotion. Ihor comes out second, right? And he's in his walkout. I don't know if this is his thing. I think it's the WWFC's thing. No, maybe it's Ihor's thing. Why are there women dressed up as octopi just there? I think it's WWFC's thing. Is that their thing? I don't know. I don't understand. It's a weird walkout. Go watch it. I think that's that promotions thing. I was very confused watching it. But don't let the women dressed up as octopi distract you from the fact that Ihor Potieria is a good fighter. This guy's got a ground game. This guy's, he can clinch, he can grapple. He's got a stand-up game as well. And I think it's a tough fight for Nikolai Negumereanu. Considering Ihor's coming to the UFC, his first fight, he's 20-2. He's only 26 years old. He's on a huge winning streak right now of like 19, 18 fights. And the guy's taken on some good competition recently. Now, prior to 2021, he took on a bunch of guys who hadn't won a pro fight in their life. But since 2020 has passed, 2021 he picks up 3 victories against guys who are, all credible guys for the WWFC championship. Then he comes into the contender. He wins in the first round, knocks down his opponent, eventually finishes on the ground with ground and pound. He's taking on Nikolai Negumereanu, who is 3-1 so far in the UFC. Drops his first fight to Safarov, where Safarov dominates the man. I mean, his takedowns at will. It's all Safarov in that fight. And then Negumereanu goes on to fight Alexa Kammer. It's a close fight. They ever so slightly give the edge to Alexa Kammer in that fight. He fights Ike Villanueva after that. Villanueva's not very good. He knocks him out in the first round. And then he takes on Kenyan Nzechukwu at UFC 272, barely getting the nod by split decision. It's a very close fight. And Nzechukwu outstrikes Negumereanu in that fight, but Negumereanu gets the decision win, scores some takedowns. He wins at 29-27 on 2 cards. So we now look to this fight between Negumereanu and Ihor Potieria. For Potieria, again, I mean, he's got a pathway to victory on the feet. It's especially, though, I think going to be on the ground in this fight. I think if he's able to take down Negumereanu, I think he's able to wear him down on the ground. Considering Negumereanu, though, he was taken down 3 times in the Safarov fight. No one really else has been, has attempted to take down on him because everyone else is trying to strike with Negumereanu. I think if Potieria's, if he wants to strike Negumereanu, I think there's definite advantage to him striking with Nikolai. If he wants to take him down, I think he's got him down there as well. I think it's just a stylistically good matchup for Ihor Potieria. In his UFC debut, I think it's a good fight for him. I think he's able to get Negumereanu to the ground. I think he's able to, work his ground pound. I think he's able to finish him early in this fight, whether it be him dropping Negumereanu with the strike or him taking down Negumereanu. I just like the game out of Ihor Potieria more. I think he's faster. I think he's stronger than Negumereanu, especially in the clinch. I got Ihor Potieria to beat Nikolai Negumereanu with ground and pound. I've got him with the first round TKO. So an interesting development here with Jocelyn Edwards. She is going from fighting at 145 against Ramona Pascual in her last fight, given it was a fight scheduled for 135, but she goes to fighting Pascual at 45, down to fighting Jeon Kim at 125. I don't think we've seen that, at least in a while, in the UFC, in the women's divisions, but we've got Edwards versus Jeon Kim here. This is going to be a stand-up war on the feet. I mean, both these two really don't engage much in the wrestling. I don't think Jeon Kim's landed a takedown so far in her UFC career. Edwards is not looking to go to that well, so you're going to see 2 strikers going in there. You're going to see both of them engaging in the stand-up game, and you're just going to see a back-and-forth war on the feet, because look at Jocelyn Edwards' last win. It's a win over Ramona Pascual, where she's able to outstrike Pascual for 15 minutes. She landed 164 significant strikes. That is by far her best so far in the UFC. In her first fight, she outstrikes Wu Yannan, given she had difficulties in between against Carol Hossa, but Hossa was trying to wrestle and grapple her, and same can be said about Jessica Rose Clark in her 3rd fight in the UFC. There's not going to be a threat of the takedown for Jocelyn Edwards against Jeon Kim. She's not going to have to worry about her opponent taking her down, because Jeon Kim, again, has not landed a takedown so far in the UFC, and she's been in the promotion since 2017. So Jeon Kim's had, a tough run as of late. She's on a 3-fight losing streak, given she did not lose to Priscilla Cachoeira. She did not lose that fight. That was ridiculous. That is the biggest robbery maybe so far of the year. That was stupid. But they give the edge to Cachoeira, even though Jeon Kim should have won. She had a back-and-forth fight against Molly McCann on the Brunson Till card. She loses both fight of the nights, by the way, in the McCann fight and the Cachoeira fight. And before that, she loses to Alexa Grasso by unanimous decision. Her last win comes back in 2019 when she beat Nadia Kassem by 2nd round TKO, back again on the Adesanya Whitaker card. It's been tough for Jeon Kim as of late. She lost 4 of her last 5. She hasn't really beat anyone at the UFC level just yet. I get she beat Justine Kish a while ago by split decision, a fight that I don't think she won in the Jacare Brunson card. And Justine Kish now is coming off a win over Alima Leigh McFarlane in Bellator. But yeah, it's been a tough road for Jeon Kim so far. But you know what Jeon Kim's going to do. She's going to go in there. She's going to try to walk forward. She is going to throw strikes, and she's always going to be in your face. She's always going to be there, and she's always going to be trying to throw power shots. It's going to be a back and forth fight. I mean, I think, again, I do like this fight, though, in the favor of Jocelyn Edwards, and I will pick Jocelyn Edwards just because of this thing. Edwards is always worried so far in her UFC career about her opponent taking her down. Even the Wu Yannan fight, Yannan takes her down in that fight. Pascual takes her down. Clark takes her down. Rosa takes her down. Given Hossa and Rose Clark took her down and used that more to their advantage than the other two. But Edwards has always had to worry about that wrestling in all of her fights. In this fight, I'd make the case she's the better wrestler between her and Jeon Kim. I just think she is. Jeon Kim doesn't defend takedowns all that well, but mostly in her fights, her opponents are willing to engage in the stand-up war with her, like her last 3 fights really in Grasso, McCann, and Cachoeira. I think Edwards is willing to engage in that same battle, and I just think Jocelyn Edwards is a better striker than Jeon Kim. So I'm going to give the edge to Jocelyn Edwards. I think she will win this one. I got Jocelyn Edwards at plus 100, plus money to go in here, pick up a victory here on UFC 277. I think she'll beat Jeon Kim, and I think she'll get it done by unanimous decision. So now we've got Michael Morales taking on Adam Fugitt. It will be the UFC debut of Fugitt, and he's coming off that huge upset victory on LFA 125, his last fight, winning by KO in the first round at 43 seconds into the fight. And Fugitt, again, he's got some knockout power, but also really good on the ground, got a really good clinch game, really powerful guy who's able to drag fights to the ground, either sneaking submissions or work his TKO in his ground, or get his TKOs and work his ground and pound once he does get the fight to the ground. But he's taking on Michael Morales, and again, Fugitt's got some power on the feet. I wouldn't say he's as technical as a striker as Michael Morales is, because you look at Morales' last fight. I mean, a perfectly timed counter right to put down and sit down Trevin Giles and eventually finish that fight in the first round. Morales has got really good striking. Sometimes, I mean, you look at his Contender Series win also, he's able to get fights to the ground if he does need to as well, but really good striking. He's got the wrestling if he needs it to. He's taking on a guy down Fugitt who, again, will wing out big punches and big shots like he did in his last fight, but again, also is able to drag fights to the ground, look for submissions like he did in his couple fights with X1. It's a fun fight, man. Adam Fugitt, though, is taking this one relatively short notice because Michael Morales was preparing for a primary grappler in Ramiz Brahimaj. You know what Brahimaj does really well. He tries to, get takedowns like he did in his last couple fights when he did submit Michael Gilmore in his last one. That's really what Brahimaj does. Takedowns, clinch, work the fight at the ground. And I think if Fugitt wants to have his best path to victory in this fight, it's going to have to be similar to what Ramiz Brahimaj was going to try to do against Michael Morales. Again, take down Morales and try to, work his ground game against him. So Morales preparing for a fighter like that in Brahimaj, he's just going to see kind of a watered down version of Brahimaj, at least in the grappling realm of things. On the feet, Adam Fugitt is a lot better than Ramiz Brahimaj. I mean, I'll say that. Again, though, Morales, I wouldn't be too concerned about his striking game against Adam Fugitt, because I think Morales, again, he doesn't get hit that much. He's a very technical striker. He's able to pick his power shots when he does need to. And again, like he did in his last fight when he sat down Trevin Giles, he got him in the first round with a big check right hook. So I do like the striking out of Morales a lot. I think it's a very tough fight for Fugitt on short notice in his first fight in the UFC, and especially taking a guy who's 10 years younger than him. I like Michael Morales to catch him early in this fight. I got Morales by first round knockout. Should be a good one, though. So now we've got Rafa Garcia taking on Dakar Klose. Originally, this was supposed to be Klose taking on Diego Ferreira. Now stepping in on short notice, it will be Rafa Garcia. And I think just combined with this being a short notice fight and just how this fight could play out stylistically, personally, I think this is one-way traffic for Dakar Klose. And yes, it does give away the prediction right away, but I'll tell you why. I think this is one-way traffic for Klose, especially Garcia taking this fight on short notice. And you look at the guys Garcia's fought to this point in the UFC compared to the guys Dakar Klose is fighting. Rafa Garcia comes in, he loses to Nasrat Haqparast. He loses a unanimous decision. Haqparast just boxes him up. Rafa can't get the fight on the ground. Haqparast beats him. Then he fights Chris Gritsmacher. Now, Garcia is able to secure some takedowns. He goes 5 for 12, but still, the damage Gritsmacher was able to do on the feet ended up winning him that fight by unanimous decision. That was a year ago in July of 2021. Then he runs into Natan Levy. He beats Natan Levy by unanimous decision. Let's be honest with ourselves, though. Natan Levy has not looked great so far in the UFC. He did pick up a win against Mike Breeden, but again, Mike Breeden is not the highest level of competition per se, right? So Garcia beats Levy, and then he beats Jesse Ronson. He submits Ronson in the second round, but again, Jesse Ronson's an older guy. He's 36 years old, who hasn't really been the best recently. I know he beat Nick Dalby, even though that fight got overturned. He's not the greatest, if we're being honest. He lost to Shul and Alex Sahin in the PFL season in 2019. Jesse Ronson's just okay, but he's kind of over the hill at this point. Those are the guys Garcia's beat. And yes, when Garcia takes on guys like Natan Levy and Jesse Ronson, when he is the better wrestler, even Chris Gritsmacher to some degree, he will have success in the ground. In a fight against Dakar Klose, I think Klose is able to keep this one on the feet. I know Christos Giagos was the last guy to really take down Dakar Klose and hold him down there for a little bit, and Bobby Green did a little bit to a certain extent as well. But I think Dakar Klose's takedown defense is really good. And on the feet, I just think this is just one-way traffic for Dakar Klose. I don't think Garcia is going to be able to keep up with Dakar Klose on the feet. And the way Dakar Klose fights, again, big power shots in the feet. Like, he was close to finishing Beneil Dariush. And if he finishes Beneil Dariush at UFC 248, who knows where Klose's career is and who knows where Dariush's career is at this point. Maybe Dakar Klose is on the way to fight Mateusz Gamrot in a potential number one contenders fight, UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. And maybe Beneil Dariush is fighting Rafa Garcia tonight, right? You just don't know how things work. Klose has been really good in the UFC. I know we have the loss of David Tamor. That doesn't look great and doesn't age tremendously, but the wins over Bobby Green looks really good still. The Yagos win looks good, and even the Mark DeCasey win back in 2017 looks good as well. Again, I think Rafa Garcia's only pathway to victory in this fight is with the takedowns. He's got to be able to land early and often against Dakar Klose. If he's not, Klose is going to keep this one standing. I really think he's just going to pick apart Garcia on the feet. Now, Garcia's got a good chin. He did eat some bombs from Hawk Peros and Chris Gritzmacher, but when you think about it though, those two guys don't hit as hard as Dakar Klose does. And what Dakar Klose also offers against Rafa Garcia is an offensive wrestling game of his own. Like you saw what he did against Brandon Jenkins. Now that was a terrible fight. Like they should never match those two guys up, but Dakar Klose is able to secure takedowns when he needs to. If he's having a lot of success on the feet, he's able to mix it up and just stun his opponents, take them down, then work his ground and pound on top as well. But again, the fight against Jenkins, he knocked him down twice. He was all over Brandon Jenkins. Jenkins really shouldn't be a guy in the UFC. Came in after winning on the PFL against Jacob Kilborn. Didn't really make sense, but whatever. Klose is able, I think, to dominate Rafa Garcia in this fight as long as he's able to keep the fight standing. I don't think Garcia's offensive wrestling is good enough to take down Dakar Klose. Once Garcia, don't get me wrong, once Rafa Garcia gets fights on the ground, he is very dangerous, but I don't think he's going to be able to implement his game plan against Dakar Klose, and I think Klose keeps this one on the feet, and I think he just outboxes Rafa Garcia. I like him by finishing the second round by TKO. I see a lot of people taking him by decision. I'm going to go close, though, with a second round TKO finish of Rafa Garcia. Again, I just don't think Garcia is able to keep up on the feet with Dakar Klose. So honestly, a really intriguing one here at heavyweight. We got Hamdi Abdelwahab taking on Don'Tale Mayes. And Hamdi's a guy, former Olympic wrestler. He's a 3-0 professional MMA fighter. He's got some bare knuckle fights under his belt as well. The guy's a really good wrestler, but if we're being honest with ourselves, he hasn't used his wrestling much so far in his MMA career because he's just been showing off his hands, because he's got more power than basically any other guy he's fought. Like, you look at his fight against Tyler Lee. Tyler Lee's a guy who tried to take down Hamdi in the fight. It doesn't go his way. They stand back up, and Hamdi knocks him out with a big right hand. He's beat Matthew Strickland twice now. I'm gonna be honest with you. Hamdi fought last month. He fought in June, early June. He was on a postlim to Icon FC's Jorge Masvidal's promotion. I could not find that fight between Hamdi and Matthew Strickland. Now, if you look at Matthew Strickland, this guy's nicknamed Stretch. Just look at his, no offense to dude, but just if you just look up Hamdi's fighting against Matthew Strickland bare knuckle fighting, you'll get like what Matthew Strickland looks like, and those two guys should not be fighting each other. It looks like the before and after picture of a Weight Watchers video. Like I'm sorry, it just kind of does. But Hamdi in the fight in bare knuckle knocks out Matthew Strickland in 15 seconds. Apparently they fight again. I cannot find this fight. Now, honestly, I didn't dig that deep. I looked across Twitter. I couldn't find it in a couple scrolls. It's not on Fight Pass because it's a post-lim to the Icon FC card. Anyways, apparently Hamdi fights Matthew Strickland again and he knocks him out. I don't know when, I don't know how, but that's the only fight I couldn't find out of Hamdi so far in his pro career. Okay, he won his first fight. His opponent's leg gave out, but Hamdi's really working on Dustin Clements in their fight at Icon FC 1. Yeah, so I don't have a great read on Hamdi because he hasn't really fought anybody yet. Don'Tale Mayes, we know how good Don'Tale Mayes is. He is better than an entry-level heavyweight, which is kind of a harsh thing to say, but he's got UFC wins, given they're just UFC wins over guys who really don't win much in the UFC. Roque Martinez never won in the UFC. Josh Parisian owns a win now in the UFC because he beat Alain Baudot. So, okay, oh, by the way, he beat Roque Martinez. Is Josh Parisian the greatest? Josh Parisian is not the greatest. Is Don'Tale Mayes the greatest? He's not really. He humped Josh Parisian in their last fight from the north-south position. But, Mayes comes in the UFC, he loses to City Ogan, it's going to happen to you. Then you get subbed by Nascimento. I just don't know what we're going to get here. Because Don'Tale Mayes recently has been a guy, like even the Josh Parisian fight, he just kept wrestling Parisian, and Parisian had no answer. Is Don'Tale Mayes going to wrestle Hamdi, who again is a former Olympic wrestler who throws bombs for hands? I don't know. Again, it just depends. I just don't know how good Hamdi is yet. This is why I think this is one of the biggest question marks on this entire card, because you don't know how good this 3-0 heavyweight really is. So man, it is a really tough one to call. When you look at Don'Tale Mayes, again, though, on that 2-fight winning streak, Josh Parisian and Roque Martinez are those last 2 wins. Don'Tale Mayes is 6'6". Hamdi is listed at 6'3" or 6'2". I've seen discussion on Twitter that he's really 6 feet tall, so you might see a big height discrepancy in this fight, and Don'Tale Mayes might be the bigger fighter in this one. I think Hamdi's definitely beatable, and I just don't think Hamdi's fought the level of guys that Don'Tale Mayes has fought. Again, we kind of crap on Roque Martinez and Josh Parisian and even Nascimento, but those guys are so much better than the pure cans Hamdi's fighting on the developmental scene or on the regional scene, right? On Icon FC and Freedom Fight Night, different promotions like that. So I think Mays is the better striker. As long as he doesn't get hit with a bomb from Hamdi, he should be able to be fine. I think he should be able to stretch this fight out late into the fight. Wrestling-wise, obviously, I think Hamdi's got an advantage there, but I wouldn't count out the wrestling game in a Don'Tale Mayes. Again, it's such a toss-up for me, though, because I just don't know how good Hamdi truly is. If Hamdi, had a UFC fight up to this point, or even if he fought in the contender series, I think we have so much of a better read. Going to this one again, I think we're just shooting darts in this fight, and it's just, you're hoping one sticks here with Mays and Hamdi. I think we'll likely see a finish either way. I'm going to go Don'Tale Mayes. I think Mays is able to finish him in the second round. I think Hamdi will start to tire because I think Mays, again, presents a different challenge than the different guys that Hamdi's fought up to this point so far in his career. Would it surprise me at all if Hamdi went in there and knocked him out in the first round? Not at all. I could see either way here. I'm going to go with the UFC veteran, though, and I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm picking Don'Tale Mayes to win yet another fight in the UFC. Give me Don'Tale Mayes by second round TKO finish. Love this fight at 155. Someone's getting finished in this fight because Drew Dober throws hands. He throws very hard, and Rafael Alves is an up-and-coming fighter here at 155 who's just coming off a huge victory over Mark DeCasey. He submitted the Bone Crusher within 2 minutes, and since then, DeCasey has put on the wrestling shoes. He's won back-to-back fights in very boring fashions against the Slava Claus, Borshev, and then, of course, he had that fight against Damir Hazovich that was very boring too, but Rafael Alves made Mark DeCasey a primary wrestler, but he submitted Mark DeCasey in their fight. Of course, back in November of last year, he comes in the UFC, does Rafael Alves. Well, he's supposed to fight Damir Magulov, or actually, he's supposed to fight past Sabatini. Alves misses weight by 12 pounds. Then he fights Damir Magulov. He's a big underdog. He loses by unanimous decision, but Alves honestly holds his own pretty solid in that fight. He knocks down his Magulov, I believe, in the first round of that fight. Even though he got outstruck in that first round because Magulov then just controls him for the rest of the round. But Alves isn't horrible. Alves has got a lot of power on the feet. He's got really good jiu-jitsu as well, as you see in the DeCasey fight, and you saw when he beat Alejandro Flores to punch his way into the UFC through the contender series. And Alejandro Flores is a really good guy as well. I know he just got knocked out by Hyoji Kudo in the PFL season, but that dude's pretty solid. And Rafael Alves went through him and submitted him in the second round. Alves is solid. I mean, he was the former Titan FC interim lightweight champion, won that against Felipe Douglas back in 2019. But this is a real step up in competition in Drew Dober, because Drew Dober's seen a lot in the UFC so far. And Dober's always looking for the knockout. He's looking for the big one-punch finish. I mean, this guy's got a knockdown in his last, 5 wins in the UFC? If you were going in there to fight Drew Dober, you are in for a war. Dober's always throwing hands. You saw his fight against Terrence McKinney. A lot of people were taking McKinney. I was like, dude, Drew Dober's good. People don't know how good Drew Dober is. And yes, McKinney had a lot of success early, but he blew himself out by just trying to go for the finish early in the fight. Dober ended up coming back and winning the fight. Still in that first round, one of the craziest rounds you were going to see was in the Santos and Ankalaev card. But I mean, this is going to be a good one because Alves will get hit in this fight. Drew Dober will get hit as well. It's a matter of, will Alves take this one down, or will he find his way, in Drew Dober's, or will Drew Dober find his way in Rafael Alves' guard? Now, I don't anticipate Drew Dober to shoot on Alves. I highly doubt that will happen. It's just a matter of, will Alves try to drag this one down? I don't think so. I mean, I could see it. I think we're going to see a striking fight, man. I think you're going to see a striking affair between Dober and Alves. And if that happens, someone's going to knock out, because Dober's got big hands. Alves has got nice kicks. He's got, really nice combos. And he's able to put guys down as well. 7 KO finishes for Rafael Alves on the record. The most recent one coming for that Titan FC interim lightweight championship back in 2019, again against Felipe Douglas. Really love this fight though, man. I just think I think it's too tough a competition for Alves here. I think it is. Drew Dober is one of these guys who's, the 20 to 15 range in the lightweight division. He takes on some really good fighters. You saw the way he knocks out Nasrat Haqparast, Alexander Hernandez, the way he's able to finish Terrence McKinney on the ground as well. Drew Dober's a good fighter. I wouldn't say he's an elite fighter, but he's one of the top fighters at 155. I think it's a very tough fight for Rafael Alves. Again, you always have to watch out for the weight cut for Alves, because this guy cuts a lot of weight to get down. I know the Sabatini fight was at 45, but still, that dude still cuts a lot of weight to get to 155. I think Drew Dober is able to win. I think he's able to put away Rafael Alves. I'll say this in the first round. I think you're going to see a crazy first round between Dober and Alves. I do like Drew Dober, though, to eventually land a big shot, put down Alves like he has so many times before. I'm going Drew Dober to extend the winning streak, I guess, now to 2 with a first round knockout finish over MMA Master's own Rafael Alves. So likely another striking affair here in our featured prelim between Alex Morono and Semi the Jedi, Matthew Semelsberger. When you look at this fight, Semelsberger definitely definitely does have the power advantage in this one. I mean, Morono, it kind of depends on what Morono you get, because sometimes he'll come out like the Cowboy fight, he'll blitz his opponent and knock him out, or then you're going to get like a fight where he had against Zawada, where Morono's not really taking too many chances. Yeah, he wins the fight and he does outstrike Zawada, but he doesn't really throw anything with too hard of intent. And like even the Mickey Gall fight, yeah, he knocks down Gall, I believe, in the first in that one, but then he just kind of coasted from there. Did Morono, he wins the first round, and he's got the striking advantage over Mickey Gall. She doesn't really go for much of the second and third rounds, and he ends up winning the fight that way. I mean, which, okay, it's a good win over Mickey Gall, but then you look at a guy like Mike Malott who knocked out Mickey Gall in the first round, and you're thinking, okay, why didn't Morono do that? If Morono's a guy who's got all this experience in the UFC, he's been around for a while, he's fought Anthony Pettis, he's fought Donald Cowboy Cerrone, he's been in the promotion since 2016, he should be able to finish a very poor striker in Mickey Gall. He didn't, and now he's taken on Matthew Semelsberger, a guy who's been pretty good so far in the UFC. Now he's 4-1. The one loss does come to a very talented fighter in Chaos Williams. Now again, Williams just lost most recently to Randy Brown by split decision at UFC 274. But Semelsberger's looked really good. He has 2 knockout finishes in the UFC. One is in 16 seconds where he knocked out Jason Witt, and the other was in 15 seconds where, I mean, they gave him Martin Sano. That was ridiculous. I don't know why. I mean, we know why Sano's in the UFC because of Nick Diaz, or Nick and Nate Diaz. We'll see if Sano hops on the Chimaev Diaz card coming up in September. Anyway, though, Semelsberger knocks out Sano really quickly. He knocked him out in 15 seconds. He wins the fight. And most notably, most recently, he gets into a dogfight with AJ Fletcher. Fletcher's making his UFC debut. It's a back and forth fight. It's a really good one. But in the end, Semi the Jedi wins it by unanimous decision on that Santos and Ankalaev card. Fletcher's able to take him down a couple times, but Semelsberger's able to land a takedown in his own right. It's a competitive fight in the feet. It's truly a really good fight. That, of course, Semelsberger does when he drops the first round, comes back, wins 2 and 3, and picks up the win in that regard. But again, I don't think there's going to be a worry of the takedown. Alex Morono doesn't really shoot too many takedowns in his fights. I think the last takedown he successfully landed was in the Reese McKee fight, which that was a pretty good fight in its own right back in November 2020. Reese McKee, now the Cage Warriors champion. He won that title back a couple weeks ago. But I don't think you're going to see Morono shooting for takedowns. Semi the Jedi is not really the type of guy to do that either. So you're going to see a stand-up fight between these two. And it's the power of Semelsberger and it's the technical striking of Alex Morono. Which one's going to win? Because Morono, again, I think he will remain on the outside. I don't think he's going to take too many big chances in this one. I don't think he's going to try to chase the knockout for sake in Semelsberger. But Semelsberger likely going to show the harder, throw the harder shots and try to land the more effective strikes in this fight. While I think Morono is going to be able to I think he's going to try to out-volume Semelsberger in that regard in the feet. So when you think about it, I think Semelsberger is able to land against Morono. I haven't been honestly too impressed with Morono's striking. I know he knocks out a very old cowboy. He beats David Zawada, who's no longer in the UFC, and Mickey Gall is one of the worst guys on the roster. So with all that being said, he loses to Anthony Pettis, who Anthony Pettis just can't beat anybody now these days. I know he's the number 1 seed for the PFL season coming up, the playoffs in a couple weeks, where he's going to fight Stevie Ray again. But I mean, come on. Anthony Pettis has only beat Miles Price since what? When he beat Wonder Boy back in 2019. I'm not counting the Cowboy fight because I think Cowboy beat Pettis. So it just goes to show I am not sold yet on Morono. He fought a Reese McKee who wasn't ready for the big show yet. Chaos Williams knocks him out in 30 seconds. I'm not convinced on Alex Morono. I think Semelsberger, I don't think he offers the same exact way Williams knocked out Morono in 30 seconds, but I still think he knocks him out in the first round. I think Semelsberger is able to find his big shots early, and I'm going with Semi the Jedi to add yet another first round knockout to the UFC resume. Give it to him. First round knockout for Semelsberger. So main card time, kicking off the card, it will be Magomed Ankalaev taking on Lionheart Anthony Smith. Potential title shot on the line, I feel like, because I think, actually, I don't know. I mean, the UFC is going to do Prochazka Teixeira too, like they should. They should do that fight next. I think the winner of this fight is going to fight Jan Blachowicz, and the winner of that will go on to face the winner of Yuri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira too. But we've got Ankalaev and Anthony Smith, and Magomed Ankalaev's been on a huge winning streak ever since he dropped that fight to Paul Craig, and this is why I think this fight means a lot for the division now that Paul Craig lost to Volkan Oezdemir, who, oh, by the way, I got that fight right, just saying. But Magomed has been on a huge winning streak since then. What, like 8 fights now? He's on a big winning streak. Beat Kutelaba twice. He beat Nikita Kirillov by decision. He beats Volkan Oezdemir by decision, and he beats Thiago Santos by decision. Now, Magomed Ankalaev, let's be honest with ourselves, hasn't really had an entertaining fight since he knocked out Kutelaba. He's gotten to this point where he's taken on the better competition in the light heavyweight division, and I mean, you can't really blame the guy, but he's taken the more measured approach in his last couple of fights, shooting for takedowns, but still just being very cautious when striking, staying on the outside, using a very technical game plan. and winning fights. And again, it has gotten him to this spot against Anthony Smith, where he is in potentially a number one contenders fight against a former title challenger in Lionheart. But this is what Ankalaev does so well. His striking has evolved, and again, he's not knocking out the top guys. He had the front kick knockout over Dalcha Lujanbula. He knocks out Kutelaba twice, given the first one was weird, but still, like, he shows he has the power. But now, again, the more measured approach, he doesn't take as many chances as he once did. And again, he's positioned himself in a tremendous spot because no one's going to take down Magomed Ankalaev. At least if you try, Ankalaev's going to stuff it. So you're forced to strike with them. And Anthony Smith in his last couple of fights has gone down to the ground and he has submitted his opponents. I know Jimmy Crute, he finishes him with leg kicks, Crute couldn't come out the corner, but Ryan Spann, Smith does drop him, but still finishes him on the ground through a naked choke. Devin Clark was an immediate takedown from Smith and a submission. Even when he beat Gustafsson back in Sweden in 2019, it was a sub. He's not going to have that pathway to victory against Magomed Ankalaev. It's just not going to be a thing because I don't think he's going to be able to take down Magomed just because of how good of a takedown defense game Ankalaev does have. So it will force Anthony Smith to stand and strike with Magomed Ankalaev, and when you do that, you fall into the game that Ankalaev wants to play. It's a technical, slow striking fight in the feet that Magomed usually gets better of. And yes, Thiago Santos had his one moment in the second round where he knocked down Magomed in their main event fight, in their 5-round main event fight in March, and that fight was boring, it was horrible, but Ankalaev gets the win, he does what he needs to do. That was a 5-round fight. Now you're going back to a 3-round affair against Anthony Smith. I just feel like it's going to be a fight, and even if Magomed, again, if Magomed, it gets in this fight in the feet, and Anthony Smith is having his moments, I could definitely see Ankalaev going back to the ground like he did against Nikita Krylov and just trying to, just applying the top pressure. Because we've seen Anthony Smith before get dominated on the ground when he's not the better wrestler. Glover Teixeira is a prime example. Alexander Rakic is a prime example of that, right? So if Ankalaev's able to do that, that's a pathway to victory. On the feet, I do like Ankalaev in a kind of boring / slow / technical striking matchup. I just think this fight favors Magomed Ankalaev so much. And again, you look at the odds. There's a reason Ankalaev started the week at -435. Anthony Smith is coming back at +350. Again, there's a reason of that. People are behind Magomed Ankalaev for a reason. I don't know if the fans are behind him, but at least the bettors are. For good reason. Magomed Ankalaev is going to win this one by unanimous decision. It's not going to be the most entertaining fight. I've picked a lot of finishes so far on this card. I don't think this is going to be one. I've got Ankalaev by decision to kick off the main card here in Dallas. This should be a fun scrap at flyweight between two guys who are at the top of the weight class. Alexandre Pantoja, if we're being honest with ourselves, should probably be in a title fight. He's not going to get it here because, of course, they gave it to Kai Kara France instead, but Pantoja's a guy who owns 2 wins over the former champion in Brandon Moreno. And he's taking on his opponent in this one, Alex Perez, a guy whose last fight was a while ago. It was all the way back in November of 2020 where he lost the World Championship fight against Divison Figueiredo in a main event of a pay-per-view. Figueiredo finishes him with the guillotine choke in the first round. But I think people forget how good Alex Perez is. This guy's good, man. Look at his fight that he got the title shot in. He absolutely kicks the living hell out of the legs of Jussier Formiga. Before that, he submits Jordan Espinoza. He beats Mark De La Rosa before that. The guy's really solid at 125. My only problem with this is, though, Alexandre Pantoja is a top and elite level flyweight that does not get the level of respect he should have. Like, this guy's losses in the UFC, disregard Dustin Ortiz, but it's Divison Figueiredo and Askar Askarov. You know how good Askarov is, right? That's a tough fighter. Askarov missed weight in that fight. He comes back, he beats Manel Kape, just Pantoja. I think so highly of Manel Kape. I think that guy's a true top 5 flyweight. He just needs to get the fights. He needs to stay out the USADA pool or whatever. He just needs to stay out the Nevada Athletic Commission, and he should be fine. Then Pantoja fights Brandon Royval. He beats Brandon Royval. You know what I think of Brandon Royval if you watch the channel. I think Royval is special. That dude's really good. He just beat Matt Schnell, who Matt Schnell looked really good in his own right against Suma Darji. But anyway, Pantoja goes in there, submits Brandon Royval in the second round. That was all the way back, though, in August of 2021. I think Royval has picked up 2 wins since that fight. You just don't see Alexandre Pantoja as often as he should be in the octagon. He's got good striking, he's got really good takedowns, and he's got really good jiu-jitsu. He's an all-around really good fighter. If Alex Perez, though, is gonna if he's gonna have a shot in this fight, it will be through the striking. It will be through the striking. It's gonna have to be that. It's gonna have to be him mixing up the grappling too if he does need it. Because Perez does have some wrestling, does have some jiu-jitsu. Again, you saw the way he beat Jordan Espinoza. I know Alexandre Pantoja is on a different level than Jordan Espinoza is, but when you look at the fight where Pantoja had against Askar Askarov, it's his last loss, right? Askarov does a really good job mixing up takedowns and his strikes in that one. He gets a takedown in the first, the second is more of a striking fight, and the third is more of a striking fight as well, but Askarov is always threatening with the takedowns. He shoots in for 15 of them in that fight, and he only lands 2, but again, 5 minutes of control through those 2 takedowns, and it gives Askarov the win. If Perez is able to mix it up against Pantoja, mixing his striking, the great leg kicks he does have, the way he finished Jussier Formiga in their fight at UFC 250, he's got a real chance of winning this fight. My thing again though with Alex Perez though, is he hasn't fought in 2 years. He was scheduled to fight Matt Schnell, that got canceled. He was supposed to fight Askarov, fight didn't go through, Askarov got hurt. He was supposed to fight Matt Schnell, fight got rebooked. He was supposed to fight Matt Schnell again. Schnell couldn't fight because of medical concerns. Then he was supposed to fight again at UFC 271. Perez missed weight, so the fight was off. He was supposed to fight Askarov 2 weeks ago. Askarov withdrew, and now you get him in Pantoja. So it's been a very long route to the title, or route back to his next fight after the title shot that Perez did have against Gibbs and Figueiredo. I definitely think Perez got a shot. He's got power on the feet. He's got a lot of power for a 125-pounder, and he can, again, I think the way you beat Pantoja is a game that Perez can definitely offer, mixing up wrestling and striking and just getting on the inside against Pantoja. Don't fight the way Manel Kape fought Alexandre Pantoja, just being on the outside, waiting for Pantoja to pick his strikes. If Perez is able to crash and close distance, he should cause some problems in the game of Alexandre Pantoja. I just think Pantoja's got too much to offer Perez though. I think on the ground, Pantoja's better. I think on the feet, Pantoja might not have as much power, but he's able just to keep his distance, touch up Alex Perez. I think it's going to be a crazy fight, though. I think we will see these two trading. I think you'll see some really good exchanges on the feet, and I think you're going to see maybe potentially a fight of the night in this one. I do, though, have Alexandre Pantoja. This guy did not beat Kai Kara-France and Brandon Moreno in back-to-back fights in The Ultimate Fighter for, just out of pure luck. The guy's good. He's got wins over both the guys in the co-main event this evening, both the guys who are in the title fight this evening. Pantoja's a really good fighter. I think he's going to come in there. I think he will beat Alex Perez. I think you're going to see scrambles on the ground. I think you're going to see tremendous striking exchanges on the feet. But in the end, I do like Alexandre Pantoja to win this one. He's going to pick up his 25th professional MMA win. Give me Alexandre Pantoja to win this one by unanimous decision. Well, someone's getting knocked out in the first round. We've got the Black Beast Derek Lewis taking on Sergey Pavlovich. Lewis is back in Texas. And here you go, man. Pavlovich on a 3-fight winning streak. He hadn't fought in about 2.5 years after he beat Maurice Green, but he comes in, he beats a very old Shamila Durakhimov in his last fight, finishes him, knocks him down, finishes him on the ground with strikes, back in London in the Volkov-Aspinall card. Now he's back, and he's taking on the Black Beast. Pavlovich throws hard. He's got very, powerful strikes, but Derek Lewis throws hard too. Honestly, this is whoever lands first, I think, because the way I've always seen Derek Lewis, and it's kind of true, Derek Lewis can beat every guy in the top 15, but he can definitely lose to every guy in the top 15 as well. And this is another prime example of that. This is either a fight where you end it looking like, okay, wow, Derek Lewis is back. Look at all the power he's got. He's willing to throw. Or you're saying, man, Lewis didn't look himself. It's like the Tuivasa fight. It's like the Gon fight where he gets dominated and maybe Pavlovich puts him out and knocks him out just like Tai Tuivasa did. You don't know how a fighter responds after being knocked out cold for the first time in their career. Yes, Lewis lost to Mark Hunt back then, but especially Derek Lewis is 37 years old. You don't know how he's going to respond because he was put out cold by Tai Tuivasa with that huge elbow. In Houston, in Lewis's hometown, it's a fight he was supposed to win. Tuivasa knocks him out. And yes, he was finished by Gon back in Houston too, but again, he wasn't finished like he was in the way that he was by Tai Tuivasa. Tuivasa knocked him out cold. Right? You don't know how Lewis is going to respond 5 months later in a fight against, in all honesty, a guy who isn't usually, you wouldn't think Sergey Pavlovich is on the Derek Lewis level. If I told you last year that on a UFC main card pay-per-view fight, Derek Lewis would fight Sergey Pavlovich, you'd probably laugh because Pavlovich hadn't fought in a while. And Derek Lewis is coming off one of Recur's plates, where he's on top of the world. Now he's fighting for a world championship, either against Francis Ngannou or Cyril Gane. He gets Gane instead for an interim. He loses. He beats Dawkins, and then he loses to Tuivasa. I think Lewis is going to throw big here, and this is why I do like Derek Lewis a little bit here. I think Pavlovich is going to be willing to engage. I think Pavlovich will chase the knockout early in this fight. And by Sergey chasing a knockout early, it will create opportunities, and it will create, it will create spots where Derek Lewis is able to counter. Because when Derek Lewis isn't able to counter, or when he's waiting and, like, okay, the perfect example is Cyril Gane. When he's waiting, but he's never able to touch his opponents, that's when he, fights at his worst. And I know he was able to touch and he was able to get to Tai Tuivasa, because Tuivasa was a very similar style to what Sergey Pavlovich, well, I wouldn't say similar style, but it's what I think Pavlovich is going to do. Tuivasa came in there and knocked out Derek Lewis. He was willing to engage the action. Yes, actually, Derek Lewis took down Tai Tuivasa a couple times in this fight. I don't think Derek Lewis is going to be taking down Sergey Pavlovich, because Pavlovich has got a good takedown defense, but I think you will see Sergey Pavlovich at least attempting something similar to what Tuivasa offered. Now, Pavlovich doesn't throw as hard as Tuivasa does. He doesn't have the chin Tuivasa does. I mean, at least I don't think. Tuivasa's chin has all of a sudden come back and it's really good now. And again, I don't know how he's going to fight Cyril Gane. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think he's going to win that fight, but we'll get to that fight when we get to it in September in Paris, France. But I think Pavlovich will fight a fight that presents definitely a possibility that Pavlovich can come in there and knock out Derek Lewis in the first round, but it also opens Pavlovich up to getting knocked out cold by Derek Lewis in the first round as well. I think there's two very different ways this fight ends up in the first round, but I think either way it ends up in a knockout for either man. And there's a reason this fight's 50-50 on Tapology right now. There's a reason Lewis is a very slight favorite at minus 125. Pavlovich returns at plus 105. It's just that these are two hard-throwing heavyweights that both these guys are going to go to war. Someone's going to go to sleep. It's that simple. And normally I would feel really good about taking Derek Lewis in a fight like this, because when you look at Lewis's career, when he fights big power throwers, Francis Ngannou, technically he won, right? Blagoy Ivanov, he beats Alexander Volkov, he comes back, he wins. He beats Roy Nelson back in the day in 2016. I know he lost to Mark Hunt. That doesn't, further my agenda, but it's okay, right? When he fights those, or even Ilir Latifi to an extent, Latifi is a wrestler, but when he throws in the feet, he's just throwing big overhands to try to knock his opponent out. Ilir Latifi is no stretch of the imagination a technical striker, right? In the past, when Lewis has fought these guys, even Chris Daukaus, he comes out on the better end because he does have a chin and Lewis can eat a punch. Didn't go his way in the Tuivasa fight. You just don't know how a guy like Derek Lewis responds 5 months after getting knocked out by Tai Tuivasa in his hometown. Now, this one is in Texas, not in Lewis's hometown. It's in Dallas, not Houston. I believe it's like a 4-hour drive. I'm not from Texas. I don't know that personally, but it's in the same state, obviously, but it's like I don't know if to a certain extent. This is like what Los Angeles and Fresno are in California. Actually, that could be a horrible comparison, but all I'm saying is it's not Houston. It's not especially where Lewis is from. It's his home state, but still it is not. It's like Lewis is still going to have to stay in a hotel. He's not going to be able to stay at his residency in Houston for this fight. So I just don't know. This is a close one, man, because it could go either way. It's a knockout either way. I'm going to take the Black Beast. But again, Derek Lewis again could lose to every guy in the top 15. He could beat every guy in the top 15. It's just a matter if he can land that big knockout blow. But honestly, if we're being honest, Sergey Pavlovich is going to try to land that one knockout blow as well. I would say technically sound, Sergey Pavlovich is better than Derek Lewis, obviously, because Derek Lewis is not technically sound in any stretch of the imagination. He's not. But it works. Lewis can all it takes is one punch from Derek Lewis. Again, you look at the Curtis Blades fight. All it took was one punch. Lewis was getting beat up for 2 rounds, and eventually, boom, big uppercut, sit him on the ground. Right? Lewis only needs one punch. If he can close distance and he can limit the cage against Sergey, I think that'll help him a lot. Like what Chris Curtis could not do against Jack Hermansson. I'm not saying that Sergey's gonna run like Hermansson kind of did very slightly did against Chris Curtis, not the way Curtis made it out to be, but he did a little bit. But Pavlovich's not going to do that. Pavlovich is going to come in there. He's going to be willing to stand and trade with Derek Lewis. I think he's going to overthrow on a big right. I think Lewis is going to catch him on a counter, and I think that's how Derek Lewis was this fight in the first round by knockout. Again, Pavlovich, I think, is going to open himself up to getting knocked out by Lewis, but I could see a world where Sergey Pavlovich, who's got a 5-inch reach advantage, stays on the outside and just touches up Derek Lewis, works the body a lot, digs big, hooks the body, and eventually finishes Derek Lewis out of the first and second round. I could see that as well, but I'm a big Black Beast fan. I'm not picking against Derek Lewis. I like the guy. I'm picking the Black Beast once again to knock out Sergey Pavlovich. I got him in the first round in Dallas get Derek Lewis back on the winning ways. So for the interim flyweight championship, we have now got the rematch between Kai Kara-France and Brandon Moreno. Now their first fight happened at UFC 245 main event, Usman and Colby Covington. In that fight, Brandon Moreno gets the better edge in that one. He wins the second and third rounds of that. It's a very competitive fight. Kai Kara-France wins a very closely contested first round. The second goes to Moreno. The third goes to Moreno as well. No takedowns attempted in that entire fight. It was a striking affair between the two, and the Assassin Baby picks up the victory. Since then, Moreno goes on to beat Jussier Formiga in Brazil. He beats Brandon Royval, UFC 255, and then he gets the title shot against Figueiredo. The draw, of course, second fight goes as the victory for Moreno, the rear naked choke finish in Glendale, Arizona. And then he lost the third fight to Deiveson Figueiredo. A very close fight, UFC 270 in Anaheim, a fight that I thought Figueiredo won. I predicted Figueiredo to win. I thought he won ever so slightly. It's a close one. I can see it's up in the air. Moreno landed the more strikes in that fight. Figueiredo landed the more effective strikes, though. 3 knockdowns for Figueiredo. Moreno really wasn't able to land on his takedowns because he didn't really shoot any, because it was all Figueiredo shooting takedowns. The weird dynamic that I didn't think we were going to get going into that fight, because Brandon Moreno came into the trilogy with Deiveson Figueiredo, and I feel like the mindset going into that was that Moreno was going to have to try to take down Figueiredo and keep him down. And now that's what he did in the second fight. And he did that to a certain extent in the first fight, but Moreno's striking has evolved so much that the boxing of Moreno has just evolved so much that can be his primary way of winning this fight against Kai Kara-France, similar to how he won the first fight against Kai Kara-France. And Brandon Moreno has evolved so much as a striker since that original fight in 2019. It makes it tough on Kai Kara-France, but the thing is, Kai Kara-France is not the same fighter since that original fight in December 2019 either. So since he did lose to Brandon Moreno, he goes on, he beats Tyson Nam by unanimous decision. Honestly, it's kind of a forgettable fight. He wins it by unanimous decision on the Felder Hooker card. He then loses to Brandon Royval. Fight of the night, one of the best fights of 2020. Royval, though, eventually finishes him with a guillotine in the second round. Kai Kara-France turns that around to a victory over Rodrigo Bontorin. He knocks him out in the first round of UFC 259. He knocks out a washed-up Cody Garbrandt, who's going to fight Hani Yahya later this year. He knocks out Garbrandt at UFC 269, no chin, and goes down to the first. And then most notably, he wins in Columbus, Ohio, beating Kai Kara-France beats Oskar Askarov in a 3-round decision. Askarov wasn't really able to land his takedowns. He landed 2, he went 2 for 14, but most of the fight was Kai Kara-France touching up Askarov on the feet. Askarov won the first. Of course, the big takedown early in the round kind of rode out positioning for the end of the round, and then Kai Kara-France went on to win both rounds 2 and 3, eventually winning the fight. I don't think Brandon Moreno is going to shoot for a takedown in this fight. I think Moreno's going to be pretty content striking with Kai Kara-France. And honestly, I mean, okay, volume-wise, I like Brandon Moreno. Kai Kara-France is the quicker striker. I think he has more power, but I think he will start to slow down a little bit after the first and second round goes. Kai Kara-France has never been in a 5-round fight in the UFC. I don't think he's ever been in a 5-round fight. Brandon Moreno's done this. He's been there, done that 3 times in a row now. And Brandon Moreno gets, I think, in this fight against Kai Kara-France, I think he will get better as the fight goes. When you look at the third fight against Figueiredo, I think it's the most notable fight out of that trilogy because it's the one that does go 5 rounds and does have a winner to it, right? You look at that fight, Figueiredo obviously wins the third because he had the 2 knockdowns in that round. Moreno wins the second, Moreno wins the fourth, and then you give 1 and 5 also to Deiveson. The 5th round is the knockdown that Deiveson did land that ended up winning it, and then the closest round of the fight is the first round that ever so slightly you give to Deiveson because of the takedown, I think. But Figueiredo and Moreno, again, that's a very closely contested trilogy that we might see a 4th fight to. Moreno does get better as the fight goes in that, right? He loses the first, okay, he wins the second, with the exceptions of the knockdowns. And again, it's huge because it's a huge part of the fight, but when you think it's just strike for strike, and if you get rid of the knockdowns, Moreno gets better as the fight goes. He just gets caught like 3 times against Figueiredo, which, again, could happen against Kai Kara-France, don't get me wrong. But Deiveson Figueiredo's got the most power that any flyweight's ever had, I think. And I think if Moreno can, again, get better as this fight goes against Kai Kara-France, I think he should be fine. Like, I think people forget the way Kai Kara-France lost to Brandon Royval. I know it's a different Kai Kara-France since that fight, but that was only 4 fights ago for Kai Kara-France. It was the fight that put Brandon Royval on the map. It's a crazy fight, but Royval knocks down Kai Kara-France in the first round because Kai Kara-France will be there to get hit in this fight. Kai Kara-France, like, Brandon Moreno's going to land a lot in this one. It's just that Cody Garbrandt couldn't get to Kai Kara-France before Kai Kara-France got to Cody Garbrandt. Bontorin wasn't really able to get to Kai Kara-France because Kai Kara-France, again, was just quicker than Bontorin. He got hit a little bit by Askarov, but Askarov, again, just was fishing for takedowns. He got tired quickly in that fight, and Kai Kara-France outlasted him. Again, I think this is a tremendous one. Kai Kara-France got really good takedown defense, so he's not going to get taken down by Brandon Moreno, so you're just going to see a striking matchup between these two. But again, it just, I don't know. Again, both these guys have evolved since their first fight in 2019. I just don't know what changes to each guy's game, or which changes to Kai Kara-France's game, that will make me pick him over Brandon Moreno in a rematch. Because Moreno's gotten better, Kai Kara-France has gotten better, but nothing shows me that Kai Kara-France has gotten that much better to beat Brandon Moreno in a second fight, especially since their first fight was less than 3 years ago. I'm going to take Brandon Moreno in this fight. I think he wins the interim championship. I think we will get the fourth fight between him and Deiveson Figueiredo either in December or January. Screw it, put it in January so we have 4 different fights in 4 different years just for the history books. I'm going Brandon Moreno to beat Kai Kara-France to then move on to the UFC's first ever 4-fight series between him and Deiveson. Give me Brandon Moreno to gain the interim world championship with a decision victory over Kai Kara-France. Main event time. It is the rematch, Julianna Pena, Amanda Nunes, champion versus champion, but this one is for Julianna Pena's championship at bantamweight at 135 pounds. Honestly, I don't think anything is relevant in this fight other than their first fight. Like, I could go on and talk about, how Amanda Nunes beat Megan Anderson, she beat Felicia Spencer, she beat Julianna, she beat Holly Holm, she beat Cyborg, she beat Raquel Pennington, and then Pena, dropped a fight to Julianna, she lost to Valentina, she beat Nico Montano, she beat Sarah McMahon. I don't think that's all relevant. Like, honestly, I don't think it is. Like, sure, to a certain degree it is, but I think it's all dependent on that last fight. Like, again, I know it was, and that was I'll say it real quick. That was my reasoning for picking Amanda Nunes in the first fight against Pena. And again, I think a lot of people thought it was just another defense for Amanda Nunes to get under her belt, and then she was going to move on to the next opponent. And we thought at the time it was going to be Kayla Harrison at 145 pounds. It wasn't. But we just thought, it's just another defense for Nunes. She's on this big run at 135 and 145, both at the same time. She's going to run through Julianna Pena. She didn't. Pena, in her assessment of why Amanda Nunes was dodging her, why Nunes didn't want to fight her, everything Julianna said came to be true. That Amanda didn't want to fight her because Julianna will push a pace on her. She will drag her to those deep, the deep places that Amanda hasn't been to in a while, like when she lost to Kat Zingano way back when. Julianna was going to do the same exact thing. She was going to push her, and she was eventually going to tap her out. It's exactly what she did. Everything Julianna said came to be true. Now, was Amanda dodging Julianna all this time? I don't know, maybe. But again, I feel like I was so confident about picking Amanda because of the way Julianna Pena got submitted by Julianna. But at the time, you gotta think about it now, I watched back that fight, okay? Julianna Pena is outstriking Julianna. It is it's like, Julianna Pena does not strike in the most beautiful way. Like, it's not a flashy style of striking that Julianna Pena fights in. She'll throw 1s and 2s and she'll keep spamming them over and over again, and she doesn't care if she misses, she'll keep pushing forward. She's winning the second and third rounds against Julianna. She's winning those 2. And if she wins those 2 rounds, then she gets the shot and she doesn't have to fight Sarah McMahon. But honestly, Julianna Pena was the only fighter calling out Amanda Nunes. She was the only fighter who wanted to actually fight Nunes because everyone thought they were just going to get beat down by Amanda. Julianna didn't think so, and she ended up winning the championship. But she was on her way to beating Julianna. She outstruck Julianna in that third round when they were trading on the feet. Now in the second round, she just outgrappled her really. But in the third round, Julianna is outstriking Germaine, and eventually she takes her down, and eventually she gets caught in a guillotine. But I think the striking game on Julianna Pena is very underrated just because of the way she strikes, and because it's not appealing and it doesn't look crisp like the way Amanda strikes. But it gets the job done for Julianna. It did in her last fight. And we talked about round 1 between Julianna Pena and Amanda Nunes in the first fight, just round 1 specifically. Okay, Julianna Pena, she gets sit down immediately. It's a leg kick. She's cool with being on her back. Amanda's threatening some, but doesn't really do much. Julianna kind of threatens with I think it's a Kimura from the bottom. Not much happens. Amanda wins the first round. You go to the second round, and honestly, Julianna goes back to her corner at the end of the first round. She's like, damn. That didn't go the way we wanted it to. Her corner seems pretty content about how it happened, but in the second round, Julianna comes out there and she does the unthinkable. She stands and she trades with Amanda Nunes, and Amanda gets so dead set on trying to knock out Julianna and trying to put her down on the ground like she's done to so many other women, She tires, Julianna keeps pushing the pace, keeps pushing on the gas, and eventually wobbles Amanda. If she didn't go for a takedown, she was going to knock Nunes out, but eventually she kept striking, she stroked, she kept going, and eventually she takes down Amanda. She doesn't even have hooks in, but she submits her with a rear naked choke. She wins in the second round. What changes from that fight in December? Okay, now it's July. Like, what is Amanda going to do differently in this fight? Well, okay, I don't think she's going to engage in that firefight on the feet with Julianna, but I think she's going to be forced to. Because I think Pena will still bring that same style, and I think the only way Amanda Nunes knows how to fight that style off is by trying to knock her head off. And yes, maybe Nunes will do that, and maybe Nunes will knock her out, and she will land a big shot, and she will put down Julianna Pena, and she will regain the championship. But if she can't do that, Julianna will keep pushing the pace, she'll keep her foot on the gas pedal, and she'll do the same exact thing she did in the second fight. I think there's a very good chance this fight ends up the same exact way this first fight went, and it's just a lot quicker. Because Julianna does that same exact thing she did in the second fight, in the first fight in the second round, she does it in the first round this time. She gets Amanda tired quickly, and she drags her down to the ground, she submits her again. I mean, say what you want about how you think this fight's gonna go. Nunes is the greatest of all time, sure. She's 34 years old, you gotta think about where her priorities are at this point in her career. She's got a kid now. She's already got the featherweight championship. She can always fall back on that if she does not want to cut ever down to 135 again. She can stay up at 145 and beat Norma Dumont and Macy Chasson for the rest of her career. She does not have to come back to 135 if she loses this fight until maybe Kayla Harrison comes to the UFC. But, right, I mean, you got to think about where Amanda's priorities are at this point in her career. She's already lost to Julianna. What will she look like in this fight? Is she all that motivated to get the championship back? Obviously, she's got to be motivated to a certain degree. And I'll say if Amanda wins this fight, I think they do the trilogy fight between her and Julianna just because there's no other fight that's going to make money in this weight class. And I'll talk about what happens if Julianna wins later, but that's got to be next. If Amanda can regain the championship, they'll do this fight again for a third time. But okay, I'll just give my prediction. I think Julianna Pena does the same exact thing she did in the first fight. I think she'll do it again in the second fight. I think plus 245 is ridiculous for Julianna Pena. For the world champion getting plus 245, that's so incredibly, that's insane to me. Julianna Pena will do the same exact thing she did to Amanda Nunes in the first fight. She's going to do it quicker this time. The first round is going to be like the second round this time in the second fight. I don't think she'll finish her in the first round, but I think the first round will be won by Julianna Pena. I think it will be a fight. That round will be, especially for Pena, she's going to try to wear out Amanda Nunes just like she did in the first fight, and I think it's going to work again because I just don't think Amanda knows any other way to fight off the style that Julianna is going to present other than, okay, I got to load up and I got to go knock her out. I don't think Amanda Nunes is going to make the adjustments necessary to beat Julianna Pena in the second fight. I think Pena is going to do the same exact game plan. I think it's going to work again. And I think in the second round, when that round starts, Amanda Nunes is going to be dead tired. Julianna Pena hits her with a couple shots. She's going to take her down again, and she will submit her again. Okay? And if that doesn't happen, if Julianna cannot submit her, eventually she will knock out Amanda Nunes, which is a crazy statement to say, but I feel really good in a Julianna Pena finish in this fight. Give her 5 rounds, Julianna Pena is going to finish Amanda Nunes again. It's crazy that I'm saying these words out loud, and I feel so confident in a plus 245 underdog and in Julianna Pena to beat Amanda Nunes, but damn it, I feel good about Julianna winning this fight. I mean, I truly do. And I think from here, Julianna goes down to 125. I think she fights Valentina Shevchenko, and I'll say it. And this might be just crazy Julianna Pena hype train right now. I think Julianna Pena goes down to 125. I think she beats Valentina Shevchenko too. Tata Santos almost beat Valentina. Who's to say Julianna's not able to do the same exact thing and actually secure the deal this time? Okay, so yeah, get on the Julianna Pena hype train before the train leaves the station because it's leaving after Saturday night. Julianna Pena is going to go in there. She is going to submit Amanda Nunes again. She'll do it again in the second round. If she doesn't submit her, she is going to TKO her. Amanda is going to get tired. She will get tired quickly. I'll say it, she does not have the eye of the tiger anymore, and Julianna Pena will retain her championship, and she'll go down to flyweight, and she'll go get a second one, okay? And hell, maybe when she's done, she'll go up to 45, and she'll beat Amanda for a third time. Julianna Pena is going to retain the world championship. She's going to prove why she is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world in the women's weight classes. and Julianna Pena retains the championship all day at plus 245. I don't know what the odds are on a prop for her to get the finish. Give me that too. Hell, submission looks nice. I'd even look at the TKO prop too for Julianna. That's how good I feel about her being Amanda Nunes in this rematch. So we're going with the Venezuelan vixen, Julianna Pena, to retain the championship by second round submission, just like she did in the first fight, just a little bit quicker this time in the second round. So folks, thank you all for watching our UFC 277 predictions here on the channel from Dallas, Texas. If you have not yet, make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you leave a like if you did enjoy the video. We'll be back next week from the UFC Apex. I mean, can the Apex end already? My goodness, but next week we will be back for Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill and Thiago Santos in the main event. Also, the Ultimate Fighter finale, of course. I kind of failed to mention Pena and Nunes were the Ultimate Fighter coaches, but yeah, you're going to have the finals between Muhammad Usman and Zach Paunga, and then also you got Brogan Walker taking on Juliana Miller. And can we get Caitlin Neal a fight for the final? I'm just saying she's not going to be on the card, but you get Caitlin Neal on the card, that'd be nice. Anyways, folks, that'll do it. Make sure that subscribe button down below. Make sure you leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Thanks again for watching, and Mamba forever.